Hello YouTube. I'd like to talk about some issues in the politics arena. So we've got people expressing their viewpoints and sometimes justifying it. Excuse me, I've never done that before, expressing my political views. So I'd like to go ahead and try that now, shooting from the hip. I have given a lot of thought to this and listened to a lot of different people. So let's just go, and I'll see how concise I can make my views. So maybe in this theoretical election, where I might, try to represent you, we'll see if you support me. So, all right, abortion. Yeah. In some cases, abortion's okay. So when? I would definitely say that not when the mother's life is lightly threatened, but when there's a substantial threat to the mother's life. But in really all other cases, I would say let it go. If they don't want to take care of the baby, let it go up for adoption. I know there are a lot of people that want to adopt, and a lot of Christians and others that I would encourage you to adopt. The need is out there. The children are helpless and so forth. So yeah, don't kill them. So when do you not kill them? So I'd say if we have the signs of life, standard signs for an average person that's living, outside the womb, heartbeat, brain activity, metabolism. Once you see those things that say the person outside the womb is alive, we say the person inside the womb is alive and we protect him. So yeah, that actually puts the line a little bit earlier in the pregnancy cycle, but yeah, definitely not at conception or not to the very beginning. Gay marriage. So yeah, there's a lot of stats, and I'm actually gathering some right now of my own that suggest that children in marriages or relationships that do not have the commitment, do not have the sustainment power to last through the entire 18 years, those children are definitely at risk. Not a good environment for them. And it's not to say it only happens on the gay side, but the stats have shown a very high turnaround for gay relationships. Very, very short relationship spans. Move in, move out real quick. So not a sustainability model there. But of course it begs the question, well, what about heterosexual relationships where there is no commitment? It's a very similar thing. The one thing I would say is that men and women are most definitely different. As far as equality goes, equal rights, equal treatment, respect, and so forth. But as far as nature goes, I would not say, even ignoring the stereotypes of Barbie and pink and all that, male and female are not the same. Naturally, at their very core, they're very different, and it's not just the physical parts. So, no, the child, in my opinion, needs a man and a woman. The natural things that both man and woman provide spiritually and physically to the baby. Yeah, and on the same line, I do want to also add that because the genders are not equal, I am definitely strongly against making the bathrooms the same. We're not going to, have male-female bathrooms where a man can enter the bathroom of a woman or vice versa. And not even to say that a man claiming to identify as a woman can enter a female bathroom. And similar things is that there's a certain level of privacy, but also a separation that has to be maintained for the genders. Both genders insist on it, and rightly they should. Otherwise, I get worried. We see some problems in Rome because of that, and yeah, I mean, they're fundamentally different at the natural level. It can't be changed. Religious freedom. Yeah, religious freedom goes along with the First Amendment, which is a little bit down here. that basically we cannot infringe on the ability to express your opinions, um, to have your beliefs as you wish, as long as they're not criminal, um, to be able to choose who you associate with, to have the privacy that you want, speak only with the people that you want. And part of, that's what services are. They're speaking with the people you want. Those who, bake cakes, do they have the right to bake cakes for who they want? Well, absolutely. Absolutely. There's, definitely room for concern, but in the end, if you choose not to sell to a portion of the population, you limit your profits and you're hurting yourself anyway. So maybe you have good reasons not to offer services to customers because they're gay, but or whatever reason. But that's your choice. It's your ability to conduct business as you wish. So it's definitely First Amendment. Government mandates. Definitely. So when it comes down to what the government can say, I've limited to only things that have to do with infrastructure, because that affects monopolies, and or I should say, unavoidable monopolies, and also has to do with safety. Obviously, if somebody makes a safety error and somebody gets killed or seriously sick, that costs a lot of money, and things that can't be given back. The government definitely has to step in there. But when it comes to things like wealth redistribution, according to whatever political agenda of whose group you think should be getting the money and whose group you think doesn't deserve the money, I definitely would go away from that entirely, including the IRS. So government mandates on, say, global climate change, which I just want to tell you, a lot of people in the scientific community disagree, and a lot of evidence exists, strong evidence to support that the climate follows directly with solar activity, which makes entire sense. Only exception being when the Earth was covered completely with ice at one point, where all that solar activity was reflected, and the internal workings govern the climate, as you would say. So, I mention that because some people might say, well, global climate change is kind of safety and health for posterity eons from now, as we're talking millions of years, and even then, as a light case as that might be, because it does affect such a long time from now, there is no evidence to support that. And there are simple things we can do. It doesn't require a whole lot of effort to be nice to the environment, to nature, and so forth. Death penalty. Is there a reason to kill? So I don't just approach this from I don't like death or something. Is there a reason that a particular person should be dead? And I would say really the only reason is if there is substantial reason to believe that that person will kill in a crime, not just kill in defense. That person, once released, will commit a felony, and I mean not just drug felonies. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about real felonies. Death penalty in those cases. It's basically you're giving up on the person. You're saying, you know what, there is no chance your life could not come back to bite us. The worth of a soul is great, and that includes any soul that is, I would have to say, is determined absolutely to be a risk to that person. So if we released him, we're quite certain, like very, very certain, that that person will kill someone. You have to consider the worth of the soul that the person might kill. So I would put exception for death penalty in those cases. Euthanasia. There are so many ways a person can kill themselves easily on their own. So allowing somebody to terminate their own life with the assistance of someone else I would say, hey, let's make sure that they're absolutely certain. You know, one of those kind of decisions you can't come back from. And so I would definitely say there has to be a few tests in place and some time limits of waiting, to make sure that you really are certain, not this impulsive decision. And then, yeah, absolutely make sure that there is no, oops, um, we didn't check his bracelet to make sure that the process had been verified and that it was the right person. So definitely got to be careful on that. Yeah, I almost even don't want to address the Confederate flag. It's really funny looking at all these issues that have already come, because really in my mind there's only one issue that besides gay marriage and abortion. Okay, there's a couple, but really there's one that's right on top of it all that's more important than I think everything combined, and that, you might be interested to know, is taxation and the IRS. So I almost want to deviate from these social issues because none of these really seem that big, especially the Confederate flag. Someone flies Confederate flag, and unless there's a symbol that says "Unite to Kill," and I would take that as the threat that it is, unless the symbol is explicitly known for that. I'd say, hey, no problem with that. So, domestic policy, where is economic issues? Tell me, we're just talking about taxation. In a way, they kind of do list that with all these different kinds of taxes. So, I'm a strong proponent of the fair tax. It's not perfect, and I do have a few reservations, but I think those reservations are quite small as far as the consequences. Basically, as I see taxation, it comes down to inequality with the IRS and our current really complicated and definitely politically motivated tax system. The loopholes, the qualifications, the time, it's just ugly. Privacy invasion. Oh man. So we definitely have to get rid of, if nothing else, we absolutely, there's probably not a worse system on this earth than the American income tax administered by the IRS. That said, I think there are a lot of almost as bad systems. So I just want to talk about why I think that we absolutely have to have an end-use sales tax. So basically, the end-use sales tax takes all of the responsibility for keeping track of taxes. It takes it off the population. It removes infringements into privacy, because that tax would not have any, it would be equal for all products and would not have any visibility into what an individual person is doing. Now, that said, it would be able to see businesses and have visibility into that, and I do have an issue with businesses being legally recognized in entities very similar to people. There's a lot of bad things that come with that, but if we have a flat tax, we're not advancing one product over another, and a fair market can adjust itself much more easily to supply and demand, and basically have a more competitive economy. So you can expect, getting rid of the incredible burden of the IRS, you can expect to see a lot more dollars into the coffers simply by not having to pay the IRS. I mean, the IRS would be a skeleton crew in collecting taxes from the businesses, just because it would be so simple. I mean, how many lines do you have to check on each individual business? It would be a matter of a few at max. So the less you have to check, the more the new IRS, what do we call it? I don't know anything but that. The less they have to check, the more they can go through. The easier it is to tell if somebody's lying or not. So, yeah, transparency. Even that tax should be put right onto the receipt for each consumer's purchase, so they know how much of the money is getting taxed. And we definitely need to have a way to make sure that we don't spend more than we get. So the government is limited any time that it wants to spend. It has to have an equal tax, and it has to pass them both in the very same action. So, people say, hey, do I really want whatever they're trying to give us? And the tax, of course, is going to be equal for everyone, so somebody can't say, well, yeah, it's a little bit of a tax on me, but it's more on someone else, so I'm going to get more of the benefits anyway, so it's good. Now, on the same note, obviously, I would say the government should not be able to tax individual groups any differently, and with a flat, fair tax, that is the way the system is designed. But also, in its assignment of benefits, it should have no way of giving benefits more to one group than another. It should be blind as far as income goes, blind as far as ethnicity goes, blind as far as any aspect. If they're going to offer, food stamps, it's a flat amount per, however they decide it, per individual or per family. That's fine. But the rich could come in and get food stamps, and like they would, really. I mean, that would be such an embarrassment. They wouldn't. But even if they would, who cares, right? Because, it's not that much anyways. It's not really, it's a waste of their time, really, with all the money that they're making. But it has to be equal for everyone. So everyone has access to the same amount of food if you're going to give food stamps, or the same amount of living benefits. Now, the fair tax does have that built in, actually, a consideration for the amount of expenses that you have to, and that any person has to have to live, which is, unfortunately, it's a little different from place to place, but it's really a good idea not to consider where you live, just to say flat for everybody. If you can't afford living there, move to someplace cheaper. So anyhow, and it's great on retired persons, and basically anyone who wants to control how much taxes they pay, they basically lower their spending. So less spending, less taxation. You can't afford the taxation, you spend less, to a point. So yeah, taxation is probably the biggest thing in all of these issues. Now, given the time, I want to break this up and I guess talk about some of these lesser issues, because I do think some of them are important, but I'm going to talk about it in a separate segment. So thanks for watching, and if you're interested in hearing my perspective, which I try to make a very logical and distanced perspective from these issues. I try not to get into it and say, oh, well, I'm religious, so I believe this, or I'm Republican, so I believe that. So I try to step back and look at the logic of it. So thanks for watching, and talk to you guys later.